So let's see if Peter will tell us who is actually the target audience. Peter?
Thank you. Sounds good. Okay. Yes. Who here? That's not going to work. So, who has anybody here never heard of Lego before? It's okay. I mean, no. Everyone's heard of Lego. I have actually something special for anyone who's never heard of Lego. Oh, now everyone, like, where are you from? Like, what do you do? Like, I'm never. Let's go back into let's hold these in the end because I heard there are super fans in the audience and maybe we need some participation incentive to the end, right? We're going to leave some time for questions, yeah, at the end. Great. So everything that can be awesome will be. We'll get into that in a moment. But I do currently work at the Lego Group, from the original Danish portmanteau of let godt, play well. The history was not quite right, but it's okay, Max. Thank you for mentioning Lego. Let's go back in time, and I'll give you some of what actually happened within the Lego company. Founded in 1932, Ole Kirk Christiansen, a carpenter in Billund, Denmark, a small town in South Jutland, was a carpenter who made children's toys, very well fashioned out of wood, actually. So that's where we started way back when. Over time, he creates toys, but it was in 1978 that the iconic minifigure was invented. And this goes into the entire system of play at Lego, which really unlocks the potential of the brand. So many of you might remember, actually looking around, I don't think any of you remember playing with something like this because you look like 20 years younger than I am. But I did play with this growing up. Fast forward to some of our latest sets. So 2017, the Saturn V rocket ship, not so popular in Russia, but very popular in the US. Our latest set, so it stands about a meter tall. It's huge, barely fits in. And this is actually from our Lego Ideas, a fan idea, actually 2 fans that created this and came together. So a brief history from Lego, and why we do what we do is because of our mission, which is to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. Lego is still a private company. It's never been public. It's never had, a stock market to answer to. And so that allows us to really focus on this mission to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. Of course, the builders of tomorrow aren't like these guys that you might think, but really it's the children, right? We have a mission to reach 300 million children by 2032. So by the time we get to 100 years of history, we hope that we will have touched the lives of 300 million children worldwide. And that's why we do what we do. And that's why I'm speaking with you here today. And hopefully you can take some lessons out from what I talk about back into your workplace, back according to your mission. So before I worked at Lego, I did a lot of work in digital and digital marketing. And so if this may seem familiar to you, this for better or for worse, back in 1994, this was the first banner ad ever created. It was created for a site at the time called Hotwired.com, which later became Wired magazine. And it was created by a small group of people, actually, who later went on to found a company called Razorfish. I'm assuming, hopefully you've heard of Razorfish, and actually it was founded before 2000, but that's when I worked there. And when I worked there at Razorfish, it was the height of the dot-com boom, or the dot-com bubble, if you will. Lots going on in that time. And at Razorfish, we had this saying that I'll get to in a moment, because we were doing things that were crazy. Like, for example, we created the soda phone. Now, this was in 2000, 1999, 2000, 2001. So our developers hacked the soda machine so you could get on your Nokia phone, there was no iPhone at the time. No, iPhone was 2007, this is 2000. And we created mobile commerce. So you can text to the soda machine downstairs, go downstairs, and it will vend for you. So m-commerce before its time. We had a system we called Mom 3000, which was essentially an intranet before intranets were widely in use. This is super small. We had little emoji, and this actually says Slacker, which is ironic because it was years and years, decades actually before Slack got created for the workplace. But this is where you could get your calendar, we recognized a fish of the day. That's what we called each other. We called each other fish at Razorfish. You could see your to-do list. You could get your project details and whatnot. So Mom 3000, it was all hand-coded, self-designed, and run internally. So that was our intranet back in 2000. And finally, we created sites like gloss.com, which was created for the Estee Lauder companies at the time. E-commerce did start around 1996 with Amazon.com, but around this time, there were companies that were getting into big websites in order to do digital. And so that's where we had this saying that everything that can be digital will be. Of course, that was then, this is now, I work at Lego now, and so everything that can be awesome will be. But before we get there, it's important to think about, okay, we all want it to be awesome. It seems so easy, right? It's easy to look at this picture and say, okay, I get it, that's cool, but it takes step by step. So when you think about Lego, you may think of iconic sets right after this. This is the kind of awesome that you get when you work at Lego. This is actually me, because you get your own minifigures designed after yourself. They got the hair, I have less hair, but I think they didn't have a receding hairline minifigure, so I got this one instead. So that's me hanging out after work on the couch, on the Lego movie couch. So you get sets like this, right? The Star Wars Star Destroyer. This thing I think it weighs over 8 kilo. It has about 200 pages of instructions, 228 to be exact, and about 3,000 pieces. So your kid wants this, and you open up the box, and you get this. And so it's like, okay, we want to get to awesome, but we've got this. So it's kind of like The Martian. What do? You take the problems one step at a time, right? And that's what you have to do, one step at a time. You take apart the pieces, you put one step on, 2, 3, and so forth, for a full 228 pages. Your fingers might be a little bit blistered at the end, but there's a huge sense of accomplishment. So when we talk about making everything awesome that will be, let's start at the beginning. So why everything can be awesome. Okay, so it starts with some data, because I'm not making all this stuff up, right? So Gordon Moore, chairman of Intel, Moore's Law, every year the number of transistors on a semiconductor will double. So that's innovation, that's technologies advancing. We're seeing it start to plateau, but what it meant was that you can fit computers into a smaller place, uses less energy, costs less. The practical impact of this was smaller size of computers. So this was ENIAC, the world's first computer, made at the University of Pennsylvania in 1946. When ENIAC was created, it took an entire Philadelphia city block, and that was called a computer. We didn't call it a supercomputer at the time, it was just computers, right, in 1946. But as Moore's Law is in effect, smaller computers, more powerful, a computer like ENIAC becomes the Apple, more of a personal computer. And of course, today, we're walking around with computers like this. So your iPhone, your Android, your BlackBerry, your Palm Pilot even that you used to have 10 years ago has more computing power in that small package than ENIAC did back in 1946, right? And that's the Moore's Law coming into effect. The next factor is cheaper storage size. So the cost per gigabyte, if you look from 1980 to now, it's almost nothing, right? This is essentially free storage, and you can guess where this goes. So more capacity in terms of our computers. This was the original server that Google ran on back at Stanford, right? So back in the day, there was, of course, less Google and less internet to be served up, but they ran it on a nice Duplo encased server at Stanford. The size of storage goes down, right? So you've got portable disks, and now you can fit that capacity on something like this. Next time you get a USB from someone and they act like it's a big deal, you can tell them, you know what, this is like free, so don't make such a big deal about it. I know how much this costs. What matters, though, is the information now, more so than ever on these things, more so than the computing capacity itself. Okay, third factor, faster internet. So we see, back when I was at Razorfish and back when you guys were, some of you not even born yet, there's, in 2000, there was mostly dial-up, but not even full world penetration of what's going on with the internet. So it really was an idea that everything that can be digital will be. It was more of a manifesto and a drive of what could be, not for what is or what is happening. But over time, you see dial-up go down, you see broadband get faster. Today, peaking out, but in countries like South Korea, for example, you've got almost 100% broadband access in the country. There are people from the TV industry who used to say, back in the mid-aughts, if you will, the big noughts, 2005, when there's faster internet, all that means is people will search, they'll find what they want, and then they'll get back offline and go back to watching TV. So wishful thinking, right? That didn't happen. We're now moving into the age of richer experiences. So richer content with that fast broadband. This was art online. I don't know if you've ever created ASCII art. This is how we had to do it back when all we had was text on a green and black screen. But now we've got, of course, Instagram. You can make your own memes if you're a Lego Movie fan. But it's advanced to the point where on that small device, because of the storage, because of the broadband, because of the processing power, you can watch something like Nike's Breaking 2. Right? This is an experiment a few weeks ago where Nike was trying to break the 2-hour barrier for a marathon. Right? It's still, they missed by roughly 30 seconds or so in very controlled conditions. But if you woke up, for us in Central Europe, it was on about 7, 8 a.m., you could watch this live on Twitter. And that's how things have changed, right? Computing power, capacity, and the speed of what's going on leads to richer content. Okay, so that sets the stage for the things that can be awesome. So these are the things that I think we're all working on and where we're going. So the first is natural interfaces, seeing the evolution of computing back in the days of ENIAC from punch. Now, I know that none of us were around for something like this, right? This is actually how you had to work with computers back in the day. You would, and maybe ask your parents about this if you're not familiar. What students, graduate students, would have to do is take punch cards, I think maybe you might see this in a voting machine, actually. Some places, I know in the US still have this. You'd have to punch out instructions or calculations that you wanted a computer to run, take a stack of these, drop them off down at the computer lab, and then wait for some other graduate student to run them overnight, come back the next day, and you'd have your answer. So this is how computing worked. This is how we worked with a machine. This was an interface. It's tough days back then. Okay, so then we evolve and we have the keyboard. So more powerful machines, better capacity, different kinds of input. So directly, I type it in, I click, I double click, etc. We upgrade the interface. Of course now, and then we've got touch. So getting to a more natural state, not I have to think like a computer to use a computer, but I can act like a human and the computer works for me. Of course, where we see this going, with the things that can be awesome, Samsung has taken a swing at this, so smart TV. So gestures, still not supernatural gestures, but how do you interact? Do you grab? Do you swipe? Do you tap? For those of you with kids, hopefully you've got insurance on your devices because they don't just want to swipe and grab. They go up and they touch the screen, right? Because they want to actually interact with and be a part of the interface today. But of course, these gestures are okay, but it's all moving to voice, whether it's Siri, whether it's Echo, whether it's Google Home. What could be more natural than saying, Alexa, play me some classical music, or Google, what's the square root of 346? And Google or Alexa or Siri will give you the answer. Natural interfaces are the way we're going. So how is your brand and how's your company preparing for this? In addition to what exists today, where we really see this going are the future that's not here yet, but we're right on the cusp of. So Sixth Sense, Pranav Mistry from MIT, graduate student, now works at Samsung, created a device called Sixth Sense. And if you can see from this diagram, there is a neck harness with a camera, and he's got 4 colors. I don't think he picked googly colors or Lego colors on purpose, but where he manipulates things with this computer. It's very Minority Report, if you will. It's very Tom Cruise back manipulating things with the hands in midair. Not commercial yet, but shows the possibility of just having this mixed reality interface right in front of you. So, but if that wasn't futuristic enough, the Brainwriter. And I'm not joking with you. This is actually for real. So, putting on this helmet where you think and it types. And this was actually created by a group of friends because they had a friend who was paralyzed and couldn't move anymore, but wanted a way for their friend to be able to still use the computer. And they were able to figure out how to harness brainwaves and make it work and make it compute. Supernatural interface, right? The most amazing thing to me about this is I believe when it came out, they created it for under $400 as well. So we're not talking you have to be able to finance, buy an oil well to buy this. It's something that will be accessible in the near future. And if not that, we're seeing these things come to life with, for example, Microsoft's HoloLens. Google Glass, a little bit creepy, very experimental, very beta. And now companies are learning, how do we get over the creepy factor and make reality as natural and as real and socially acceptable as possible? Because natural interfaces will matter. That's how we'll use computers. Okay, natural interfaces and smart machines. So 3 things come together to make this work. Data and analytics, the stronger computing power we mentioned, but of course the human element to this, expert insights. So, Skype Translator. You've got the Tower of Babel on your desktop. What this does, if you've never used it, we could probably have dialed people in from all over the world today, because as you talk, it translates. And this is a marketing picture, but it really works. It's English to Spanish. They're talking about going to the pub. Do you want to join us? I think you met some of the team at the party in April, and it translates. Now, it doesn't say actually what happens when they go to the pub, because one guy doesn't speak English, so I don't know how they're going to communicate. But it's what could be, right? Tower of Babel on your desktop. Tower of Babel, of course, being the place where all the languages came together, everyone understood each other. So, smarter machines. Of course, self-driving cars. Leave the driving tip. This is Mercedes' version of the self-driving car. There's a future of mobility. This isn't just a car that gets you from A to B. It's seen as an extension of the living room. You sit, you don't worry about it anymore, and you change your lifestyle based on the smart machine. Or robots. Mentioned before, Philip K., I know the Spark Me team are Philip K. Dick fans. Hopefully you've read this one too. Do androids dream of electric sheep? How do robots come into play? And this is for real. This is the Dubai police force now that have police controlling. And we see this in limited applications, parking robots, for example, in Silicon Valley. And so this is coming to life, smart machines coming into our world. How everything else is becoming awesome, the digital acting on the physical and vice versa. So back in those Razorfish days, it was all about what could be online, bricks and mortar, the death of reality. But we're seeing there was a first wave, which was physical to digital, embodied in the music industry. There were records like Jailhouse Rock, 33 1/3, 45, 78, that you actually put on a turntable, and unless if you're a DJ now, but back in the day, there were records, which evolve as we start getting more digital into CDs. This was my first CD, Michael Jackson's Thriller, back when Michael Jackson looked a little bit different than he did at the end, but that was Michael Jackson. But now it's streaming. So physical has made the full transition into the digital, right? Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Prime Music. Moving from physical to digital is how we've seen the world change. We see this manifest in other ways. This is one of the world's first 3D printed houses in China. So reducing the cost to manufacture with implications for IP, for construction, for materials, changing the way businesses work. In other ways, we're seeing, I think this was mentioned before, drone delivery being piloted in Cambridge, England. So Amazon using smart machines to get stuff everywhere. And finally, Magic Your Way. So Disney having invested $1 billion in these things called Magic Bands that know where guests are in the park, that you check in and you move around. No more cash, no more cards, just this thing that knows where you are and facilitates your Disney park experience. So Magic Your Way. It only costs them $1 billion to do it. So how you make it awesome. So we've talked about the way we got here today, what we see coming forward, and some of the things that I think you can do to make it awesome based on what we're doing at LEGO. So for starters, it's the core. We talked about the mission of the company, and your brand values bring the meaning. You know, I've been working in different companies for the past 20-something, 30 years. You're working at a place you don't believe in, quit. It's not worth it in the long run, believe me. I was in the advertising industry in New York before I went to LEGO. Terrible, it was some of the worst people imaginable in the world. Why put yourself through that? So, you're from the advertising industry as well, I can tell. So, you know, the brand values bring meaning. So you have to love what you do. And like I said, we inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. Everything we do goes back to the children. And what are we doing to support children? For example, we created an app called LEGO Life. This is a social network for children. As you may or may not know, most social networks, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, etc., have terms and conditions. You have to be 13 plus. We know that many children also put in a different year, right, to get on. But that is not safe, actually, for children because of the other people who are on there and looking to do wrong. Thankfully, it's a minority of people who might be looking for that. But there are a lot of weird corners of the internet, especially for those of you who spend a lot of time on Reddit and read subreddits and know that it's a dark world out there in some corners. So LEGO Life is what we believe is the first child-friendly, for the US, COPPA-compliant kids social network. There are a lot of features in there, and we've created this, made it free. Yes, it's for the brand, but also a way to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. That comes straight out of our mission. Okay, so brand values matter, from the core to the content. So what you create, think about the motivation. Why are you using those brand values to connect? And the way we see it, there are 3 key ways to go. Make me laugh, make me believe, make me really feel the emotion, or make me famous, put me in the spotlight. Of course, we've seen this exacerbated with social media. So make me laugh. Lego Batman movie, there's actually a moral to this, but a lot of action, a lot of humor, a lot of comedy, right? Make me laugh. Let me bring enjoyment to the lives of others. Make me believe. So Lego has invested tens of millions of dollars in renewable energy. And actually, so we've hit a target that we set for the company to be 100% renewably sourced. So of course, we have operations in many different cities around the world, but net around the world, we're a contributor via renewable energy more so than a consumer. And this is, we recently opened a large wind farm off the shore in Liverpool, England, a couple weeks ago. So a commitment to doing good, again, within our mission. So make me believe, give people something that resonates back with your core brand values. Or make me famous. Make the consumers the star of what's going on. We have a program called LEGO Ideas where individuals, so anybody, can submit an idea. You get 10,000 votes from the community. It goes up for review. We can't make all the sets, but many of them we do consider, and some of them we do produce. So this is Kevin Sato. He had an idea for a Beatles set, Yellow Submarine. We thought it was a good idea, so we brought it in. We did the negotiation with Apple Records, with the estates of the Beatles, negotiating with many of the individual Beatles estates, and eventually were able to produce the Yellow Submarine, did a launch event up north, and Kevin was the star. Making him famous isn't just, hey, you're the designer of the set. He also gets 1% of the proceeds for his idea from the set. So it's a decent trade-off. And finally, the community. So when you find those like-minded individuals, how do you bring them in? So connect the core and periphery. This is our LEGO Ambassador Network. So we bring these people together, and this is a shot from Enfield, Connecticut, one of our user groups, our super fans, or AFOLs as they're called, adult fans of LEGO. Are there any AFOLs here today who would admit it? Yeah, okay. Matt, yes. I'm gonna, just for that, I'm gonna try to get that not over to you. Oh, Heather, you can take that. So there are some AFOLs, And this is not, you know, they create some of the crazy, crazy stuff that's out there. So for example, this is Alice Finch, and she created Hogwarts. We don't sell the set. It would be too big to fit on the shelves. But she used 400,000 pieces to recreate Hogwarts. There's actually a Harry Potter experience up in Watford. It's northwest of London, where this exists too. I think this is actually better because this woman designed, dreamt, and then built this whole set. We actually sold her the pieces on bulk, so she didn't have to pay too much for them. But this is what adult fans of Lego are capable of building. That's how crazy, super awesome they are. Okay, so to close up, make everything awesome. Technology sets the stage. Everything didn't just happen. There was a roadmap to how we got here. The digital is evolving the physical is acting back on the digital, and how you make it awesome, core content and community. And with that, I think because we're all going to be super sweaty if I keep talking, let's end it there. Thank you, and I'd be happy to take questions.
So no more fans, adult fans
I
of
know,
Lego here?
and these don't fly, so if you're in the back, you're going to have to really, like,
See?
you know,
See?
yeah, I know. So,
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
share it later.
okay, let's do it.
Good. So just a very short couple of questions. You mentioned advertising agencies and going back to clients, and I know it's a big change. So you were at the clients, and then the agency, and then the clients again.
That's right.
Ups and downs. Like, what are the good sides of the agency business? I'm sure people would connect.
Yeah, I mean, you get paid better on the agency side for sure, but the question is it worth it, right? There's all the point, you know, you go up and down your life. Why do you do it? This or that. So, but is it worth the stress? Is it worth the model? Some people, don't get me wrong, some people love it, and it's a great place to be. It's a great place to learn skills. But the grass is pretty much the same green everywhere. I think it just depends on where you are vis-a-vis the fence, right? So yeah, I think in my first job, there's a guy I met. He was about to retire. He said some people are services people, consulting or agency. Some people are client-side people. And I think if you figure out which one you are, it kind of helps you stay motivated.
But it also connects to your personal values, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because maybe here in this region, be the case, but being in New York, where the advertising is like the best,
Yeah.
I suppose values are a big question.
Yeah,
right?
and it depends on where you work. So it could be Devil Wears Prada, or it could be very, sustainable and supporting. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have a question? Jeff? Yes. Here's.
Is it on? Oh. So in your thoughts on moving from physical to digital, what do you think also about the nostalgia market that seems to create? After the transition is made, we like buying 45s and vinyl and that sort of thing. And what are you doing at Lego to make use of that nostalgia market for the way the toys used to be?
Star Wars?
For instance.
Yeah, a great question. And I think that there's always this balance of the now versus the future and the past. And how do you be respectful of the heritage, and how do you move forward? At Lego, we do create quite a few what we call novelty sets, whether it's Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, Cars 3. We work a lot with Disney, Warner Brothers to create new IPs and new sets. We have our own IPs, Ninjago, which is a ninja-themed set, or Nexo Knights, a futuristic knight set for boys. And girls. But we also balance that out with the core creativity, right? The classic sets, if you will, because that's the endless possibility that comes with Lego. So I think, to your question, you see in some of the fan creations, some of them creating exactly what they want. And I feel like that's more of the core build, getting back to not only, so for example, my first set was a space set back in the late 70s, right? And so it's not about just having that set, but also either recreating on my own if we want it, because we don't sell it, and creating something new and awesome with what we've got today.
The guy that was a spaceman.
Yes, Benny, the spaceman,
Yeah.
Absolutely. We brought him back because it's the nostalgia balance with the future. Absolutely. Cool. Thanks
So
for the question.
you
I have a
deserve it.
Simpsons figure. Speaking of new versus old, so.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes. course.
Hi. I would like to hear a little bit about your comments on augmented reality and virtual reality and transforming into the digital world and interactions and the way the Lego thinks about it. Have you discussed it in your company?
Yeah, absolutely. Until the day that all of us are plugged into the matrix and like we don't even have to be here, then there is a future, I think, for the mixed reality, right? The real life, the physical versus digital. At the core, Lego, we make the brick. We're a physical play product. It's very cool to work at a toy company, but I work in a toy company. Like, who would have thought that you work at a place like that? I certainly didn't. But you put it all together, and it's how do you use the opportunities in digital to make that physical play come to life. So there is in this industry a branch of toys called Toys to Life, which are things like scanning, and then you have online experiences, offline experiences. So we're certainly exploring not just some of the animations, the movies, and the entertainment, but how to bring the whole ecosystem together. So the bricks are a system in play, but digital creates a greater opportunity for an ecosystem digital in play. So yeah, good question. That's how it starts to come together. And have to, yeah,
That's
yes,
cool.
of course. So,
Okay, so this is your dream job.
it is my dream job, yes.
Nice.
I get free Lego all the time too, so like how could it not be my dream job, right?
Well, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much.